How was Dmitry Bivol so damn good against Artur Beterbiev? This is the first part of a two-part series in which I analyze the two guys and I use game film to talk about what they did really, really well in their matchups. Because guys, even though someone can lose a fight, oftentimes there are still a lot of good things to analyze in somebody's performance, and we can learn a lot in loss. Actually, to be honest, we can learn more in loss than we can in victory. I know that's a cliche. I feel like I've been using a lot of cliches lately, but it's very, very true. When we lose, we learn more than when we win. That's without question. But, even though we could say that Bivol lost this fight because, that was the way that the decision went, Beterbiev got the victory, you could definitely have scored this fight for Dmitry Bivol. So it's not your typical loss. And, it's funny because I find a lot of the time people have a big issue with me giving compliments and sort of praising things that fighters have done in defeat that I think they did well. A good example of this was my breakdown of the TJ Doheny against Inoue fight. I thought Doheny did some really good stuff in that fight, but people got pissed off with me because they were like, oh, how can you talk about Doheny doing good stuff? Inoue wiped him out. Well, because he did give Inoue a few problems in there, and yeah, Inoue went through him in the end, but the reality is that we can still learn a lot about what things might trouble somebody if the right guy does it in the right way. And so I think it's really, really worth looking at this fight, particularly this fight that was so 50-50, so close, and studying them to see what they did well in this fight. And then we can take that and speculate on what they could do to maybe win the next fight, because I'm sure there is going to be a rematch between these two. I think the demand is there. I think the money will be there because, Turkey Al-Sheikh, I'm sure, is going to put it up. And I'd absolutely love to see a rematch. Before I get into this one, I should say welcome back to A Guy Called Henry, everybody. If you're new around here, please subscribe to my channel. Please hit the like button and get your comments in the comments section below. What do you think about this performance from these two men, and who do you think wins the rematch? This is part one. We're doing Bivol in this video. Part two, we're going to be doing Beterbiev. But without further ado, let's get into this one. Actually, before I get into this, there is something else I want to say. Guys, when I do these game film analysis videos, I try and watch nothing before I do it. I try and go in cold. I just try and use my eyes, and I try and use my brain and my experience watching boxing to break down what I'm seeing. I've had comments from people that are like, you've been watching this person, you've been watching that person. It's absolutely untrue. If I say something that somebody else has said, it's because we've both seen the same thing. I will always credit somebody if I get an idea from them. That is my guarantee to you. If I see somebody say something and I think, oh, that's a great point, I didn't actually think of that, I will always say, I heard Hatman or whoever the hell I'm listening to say this, and I think this about it. I'm never going to hear an opinion and try and claim it as my own. If I say something that your favorite content creator has said, or indeed if you are that content creator and you think that I'm imitating your work, copying your work, I can guarantee you I've not watched your videos, because I don't do that. I might make my video then go and watch somebody else's just to see how their analysis compared, but I don't watch any other analysis channels. To be honest with you, I want to keep my mind clear and fresh. But what you'll also get with that is, guys, sometimes I will miss things. And that's why I want you to get in the comments section below and tell me what you're seeing, what you're thinking. Because I'm not going to see everything. I'm not perfect. I'm far from it. I'm not the best boxing mind out there. But, I just try and tell you what I'm seeing. Anyway, let's get into this. So there's a few things I want to analyze in this video. There's lots and lots of things to talk about with this fight. But the three things that I really want to look at in this video are the way that Bivol firstly was able to counter off Beterbiev's jab. I felt that this was an absolute key to the way that Bivol was able to attack in this fight. In the second part, we're going to be talking about Bivol and how he capitalized on Beterbiev's forward pressure and how in general he was able to capitalize on Beterbiev's movements. And finally, in part three, we're going to be looking at areas for improvement. Some things that I saw Bivol do a few times that I felt he could have tried to implement a bit more in the fight. And we'll throw in a couple of ideas into the mix that he might be able to implement in the second fight that I think might help him to get the victory. So the first thing I want to draw your attention to here is the way that Bivol countered off the jab. There's a couple of different ways that he ddid this, but the first way I want to show you is it's just a very, very simple technique, and it's just a dip of the legs. So just to set the scene, we've got two guys standing in front of each other who have very similar postures. Both have a similar stance with their legs, both in good balance. Both have quite straight backs. Both have nice high guards, and they're both ready. Bivol's slightly higher than Beterbiev's in this instance. This is in about round 7. But I just tried to pick some of my favorite moments and examples of this. This happened throughout the fight, and consistently this was one of the best ways that Bivol was able to score shots on Beterbiev. But I'll edge it forward here. Beterbiev throws the jab, and you'll see it lands, but you'll see what Bivol does there. He just dips down ever so slightly and bends his legs a little bit. Now, what this does is, and it's something that Mike Tyson used to do, it's not the same as the power you get when you do a full rotation of your body, but just dipping your legs and springing upwards from that dip, it gets you about 65-70% power. And because it's a quick dip, it means that you can evade a shot and then throw back quickly. It works really, really well as a counter punching technique for loading up the power onto your legs. So he's dipped down, the jab's gone slightly over the top of his head, and because Beterbiev has, or can have quite a heavy jab, he uses the pawing jab very effectively, but here, he's gone for a slightly heavier jab. His is going over the top, his arm's extended. Now, the first thing I want to show you is, here, Beterbiev likes the double jab, and he's tried to double up here. Normally, he's very, very good at getting his hand back to his chin here, but this time he goes for a little double. And because he's been a little bit pawing with that second one, he's left it out there, his hand, and it gives Bivol a chance to counter. So he goes with his jab here. He fires in and hits Beterbiev on the chin. And also at the same time, you can see that Beterbiev, he's gone to shoot the jab, but he's sort of just turned his head ever so slightly there, Bivol, which means that Beterbiev's second jab has missed. After that first one, we have an exact repeat of it again, but this time he dips just a little bit more. So Beterbiev throws the jab, and you can see this time he actually catches him slightly on the way down, but he's dipped his legs even more here. And the more you dip, the more loaded your legs are, the more power you can generate with the counter shots. So that jab comes out, and you see Beterbiev, as I say, he uses the jab to step in and close the distance. So he throws the jab, he steps in. As he takes that little bounce in, Bivol goes. So he throws the jab, lands around the chest area, throws the hook. Beterbiev blocks it. He's got his guard up this time, which is effective. And then you can see he goes again with another little jab, and then a right hand down to the body. I think it misses slightly. Left hand up top, which goes around the guard. And then another right hand, which catches on the guard. But you can see the understanding here, the idea. Dip down, go. Dip down, go. He led with the jab there, but there's a couple times where he varies that up. This one here is a really clean example of it. So again, you know, as I say, every time, their postures are really, really good. You know, there was no mistakes in this fight. You rarely saw low lead hands or any of that nonsense. And a lot of fighters like to use low lead hand, but these two just very, very solid. Knew they couldn't make mistakes. You just look at the shape of their bodies here as well. Like, the stances are very similar in terms of the balance, the shape that they take. Different attributes, of course, Bivol with the faster hands, the faster feet, the more back foot style, Beterbiev with the ridiculous power, but just in terms of their fundamentals, very similar. Anyway, as we edge forward here, Beterbiev throws that jab, and this time Bivol gets a clean dip, and you can just see what this does. It opens up the space. So that's gone straight over the top, and then Bivol, he's got his eyes on the prize, and the body has opened up here. There's a bit of space. He's got his right hand here, Beterbiev, in a good position, but I think with these two, one thing you would have seen a bit was they'll throw on the gloves to then land the second phase. But we'll see here. Bivol goes instantly, so he throws that jab, which lands around the chest, I think, of Beterbiev there. Doesn't land clean on the chin, that's for sure. It's hard to see, but just lands just below his chin, I think. And then Bivol goes, so he steps in, he throws the hook around the head, and then he throws a straight right through the middle. And this was a combination in my pre-fight analysis that I said would work well. The hook around the guard, the straight right up the middle, because Beterbiev does often lean backwards to avoid shots, and dangerous to follow him in there because he does come back with counter shots. But in this instance, it works, and it was something Gvozdyk did, as I showed you in my pre-fight analysis. Gvozdyk would throw that left hook around the guard, and then the right hand up top or to the body. So left hook up top, right hand through the middle, and does it land clean? Yeah, it does. But this was the thing in this fight, guys. The margins were so fine between a clean shot and an effective punch. It was honestly an ineffective punch, I should say. It was crazy. In round one, I thought that Bivol landed so many punches, but when I watched this back in slow motion, and I'll probably make a video about this, it was something that Hatman actually alerted me to. In his video, he said that he went and watched it back, and he counted that there was only really 2 or 3 really clean punches landed in round one. And when I watched it back, there was some Bivol flurries that looked super impressive at full speed. When I slowed it down, none of the shots landed. It was really interesting watching it back at that speed. But anyway, you can see they break apart there, and we move on. Final example I'll show you of the head dip here. And this is in the last round of the fight when Beterbiev really came on incredibly strong. And this was, you know, the main criticism I had of Bivol in those late rounds was that he was moving backwards with his guard up too much. So stopping the movement and firing counter punches was absolutely essential. And whilst nothing really lands clean in this exchange, or maybe half clean, it's really important because it stops Beterbiev marching forwards. And this is something he needed to do a little bit more of. So, as you can see here, good stances. We won't break down the stances again in this one. But Beterbiev piles forward here, throws that jab, and Bivol just times the dip absolutely perfectly. He's under the jab. And as I keep showing you, it opens everything up for him. Jab's going over the top. He's committed there. Gives you the body if you're fast enough. You know, and then if you can hit the body, then generally that brings people's hands down. Then you can go up top. So just touch it forward here. Bivol comes back up. And look, that's the beauty of these guys. The skill, the discipline. Beterbiev gets his hand straight back. Look at that guard from a position where you're relatively exposed. A lot of guys just drop their hands low there. Straight back up into a really defensive position for Beterbiev there. But Bivol lands the jab, lands the right hand. It sort of just catches him on the forehead there, down the middle. That's a good a good little shot through the middle there of the Beterbiev guard. And then he goes with a little hook. Beterbiev dips under it. And they end up sort of clinching here. And that was something I felt as well Bivol could have done a little bit more. Now, I know Beterbiev is a very, very strong man, much better on the inside than Bivol is, but I do think he could have potentially tried to clinch a bit more. I'm not saying it would have gone well for him, but something that I think might have been worth trying earlier on in the fight was in those tight positions rather than letting him pour onto you and running backwards. Just stop moving your feet and hold him. Let the referee break you just to break it up a little bit to create more of an illusion that you're not on the back foot quite so much. Really nice slight variation on it here, but again, working off the Beterbiev jab. Beterbiev throws that jab, and this time Bivol just steps to the side, but what he does is, you'll see, watch his foot position here. So this brings him into range, this one slip. So his foot goes from here to here as his head gets off the center line. His head is going to move across to here as he makes that step. So watch, head moves across, steps in at the same time, gets around that jab. And then from there, he's got options. He can do stuff from there. Now, he could throw a light jab if he wanted to up high and shuffle that back foot in so he can bring the backhand into play. A big thing that a lot of fighters don't do, and you see it often, this is something my coach has spoken to me about, is stepping the right foot in. You know, I think that often fighters will throw the backhand without moving their back foot, and that's why it misses so often. It's hard to land the backhand. You know, it's not easy, and nothing like landing a jab, and it's purely because of your foot positioning. Anyway, you'll see what Bivol does here. He rips a left hook to the body, and it's hard to see how clean it lands because of the camera angle, and you can see that Beterbiev has got his guard up nice and tight here. But I like the idea, and I think that he did land a good number of body shots in this fight, Bivol, but something that he might want to consider doing is investing in the body a bit more, trying to slow Beterbiev a little more as the rounds go on. But as I said in my pre-fight analysis from that Gvozdyk fight, Beterbiev is very, very strong to the body, very, very powerful. And generally speaking, something that worried me in this fight for Bivol was his lack of punching power. Where Gvozdyk had the greater punching power, he was able to make Beterbiev back off a bit more. Bivol had the better footwork and foot speed, which is why he was able to go the distance and Gvozdyk wasn't. But I just wonder if Bivol can hurt Beterbiev enough, and he might be relying on he might be relying a bit on physical decline, I'm trying to say, from Beterbiev to kind of hurt him in that next fight. That little extra wear and tear on the body that just allows him to kind of get to him a little bit more. Final variation I'll show you here. And again, I like this. I like when Bivol loads up a bit more of a single shot on the counter off this jab evasion technique, I guess we'll call it. It's a fancy way of saying a slip. I don't know why I said that. Anyway, moving on. I'm a bit delirious, guys. This is my third attempt at filming this video. You can see I've ended up sitting down. I've actually modified my whole set just so I can sit down today because I couldn't be bothered anymore. But anyway, here we go. So Beterbiev fires the jab, and he really commits to this one. So you can see he puts force into it. And what I like about this here is that Bivol, he dips a little bit. He also moves his head off to the side a little bit. So this one's kind of a slip dip, I'll say. And as he goes, this time, he's got his right hand free there. He's brought it slightly away, so he's instantly loaded that. And then he's just looked to fire that straight in to the body area. And he's done it. And he's landed that. I don't know if he's landed that clean, if he's brushed across. Those ones normally hurt a lot when they sort of brush across. But I think he might have missed slightly there, but I like the idea. And then what I like is he goes low and then he comes up top with that left hook as he's pivoting. Boom. Right around the side of the gloves there. And I really like that. I think that's very good. And then Beterbiev has to back off and reset. And I think something that's really key here is you've got to make Beterbiev go backwards if you're Bivol. You've got to make him reset. You've got to stop him pouring forwards and onto you. And these little counter shots with the speed and the power, really, really good. A lot of the stuff I describe it as like the Joe Calzaghe slaps. Bivol, in moments, really does remind me of Joe Calzaghe. And I think that definitely I'd like to see him sit down on those single punches just a little bit more. Go with a single power shot and use that to set up the lighter shots to go up top. I think sometimes to vary that, not always be going with a light jab to the sort of chest area to try and land it on the chin. I think going with a single backhand or a hook, it's a good idea for Bivol. Now, the dip didn't work all the time, as you'll see here. But what I really like about what Bivol does here is he still reacts. He still fires back. So Beterbiev lands the jab clean there in Bivol's face. But, you know, Bivol could, in that scenario, just accept the jab and retreat. But he knows that there's an opportunity there because Beterbiev has committed to a more lunging jab, a heavier jab. He knows there's an opportunity to counter this. That's exactly what he does. And he goes back there with the right hand over the top. And that's a beautiful shot round the side of Beterbiev's head there. Catches him clean around the sort of ear area, left hook. And then he moves away again. And they sort of reset. But there was a few times as well that happened. And, you know, Beterbiev's such a good boxer. His jab is so good. I think I'll talk more about this in my Beterbiev video, but I think something he could have done would have been to aim for the chest area a bit more with his jab, because Bivol was getting a lot of success with that dip. But I like the way that he reacted. Even when he was hit with a big jab, he took that as an opportunity to counter over the top. So that was good too. I appreciated that work from Bivol. Final jab counter I'll show you is the pull down. A little guard manipulation, as we like to say. To be fair, you wouldn't really call this guard manipulation. It's just parrying. It's parrying and it's pulling. So this one here, Beterbiev, he's got his jab in a nice position. He dips it low and he shoots from the hip here. It goes up. As it goes up, you see Bivol reads it. And he just grabs it there. And he pulls it down. Pulls it, and as he does that, boom. That's a beautiful right hand. And this is something that it's not easy to do. It's not easy to read, but I'd like to see him do it a little bit more. I think that's brilliant. This one's a really interesting sequence. Throws the jab, Beterbiev. You see Bivol dips, and he catches it as he dips there. Pulls it out the way. Fires the right hand, but this time, Beterbiev pulls backwards, and it barely catches him there. And then he comes back in with his own shot, which Bivol then blocks. And that there is just an elite sequence. You know, a counter misses, a counter misses, a counter misses. And this is what happened in this fight. Both guys so defensively responsible, so aware of what's happening. Just such high-level boxing. And finally, this one here, and I absolutely love this one. Beterbiev steps into range, and again, he sort of lowers the jab ever so slightly, and I think this was something that Bivol started to notice when that jab hand came a bit looser. I think he was potentially a bit more likely to shoot the jab. So as he shoots that one, Bivol catches it there, you see. Makes a good connection with it. And obviously, when you do that, as I've just shown you, he's looking to pull it to there. So he pulls that down, and then he fires the right hand in, and he catches him clean on the side of the face. Luckily for Beterbiev, he tucks his chin in nice and tight, so it's not too damaging of a shot. But it's a good punch, and Beterbiev's forced to go backwards there. But Beterbiev was relentless with that jab, and, you know, Bivol will probably feel there was more moments where he could have worked off Beterbiev's jab, but so good with his jab, Beterbiev, and I feel that the only way you could make him a bit more reluctant to deviate from throwing that jab would be just to hurt him more off of it. So Bivol's got to be able to hurt him. And that's the one area where, you know, I'm not sure that Beterbiev will be deterred by Bivol. So that's something that no amount of technique or changing can do, but perhaps he could sit down on his feet a bit more. And there's elements of this fight, you know, not to go too much into my analysis of what could be done better, but it sort of reminds me of the first Triple G Canelo fight where Canelo was just on the back foot a bit too much. I know it was awarded a draw, but Triple G, to most people's minds, won that fight. And, you know, I think that in that fight, Canelo was on the back foot a bit too much. And then in the second fight, you saw he came out, he held the center of the ring far more. He used his head movement, and he tried to land big single shots, big fast counters. I just wonder if in the second fight, Bivol might try and do the same. Although he's not a puncher like Canelo, he doesn't have the head movement Canelo has. But I do wonder if he needed to be a little bit less about speed and a little bit more about power. Next thing we're going to look at here is the way that Bivol capitalized on different elements of Beterbiev's movement, how he used his own movement to neutralize some of the things that Beterbiev was trying to do in moments, because ultimately he couldn't fully stop Beterbiev. So this sequence here was really interesting, and this is one of the first early signs of Beterbiev coming forward, you know, the brilliance he has on the front foot in this fight, and then watching the way that Bivol was so good at firing shots on the move, on the back foot. So they engage here, and we'll all remember this moment in round one because it's one of the significant moments where they trade right hands. Bivol lands clean, Beterbiev lands clean. Moments later, having landed that right hand, Beterbiev is on the pursuit. He wants to land another one, and Bivol makes the most of this over-aggression here from Beterbiev. So Beterbiev throws the right hand here, and you can see Bivol just pulls back. It misses by a fraction. And it's one of the only moments in this fight where you see Beterbiev sort of off balance slightly. And this is what he likes to do. You see that right foot there. He wants to step through there into southpaw to find his balance again. And I'll show you a few moments in the fight where Bivol was able to capitalize on that. But you see, he tries to step through. As he steps through there, Bivol throws the jab, throws the right hand, and lands it clean as he's on the back foot himself. And you see from here, he's going to end up all the way back there because he sort of leaps backwards. There you go. Boom. And he's out of range again. The scary thing about Beterbiev is, look, he's already mine on one thing. He's already, look at his eyes, look at his hands. He's already marching forward to walk him down despite Bivol landing a good punch there. But the first sign of Bivol doing really good effective work off the back foot, that sort of counter punch, you can pursue me, but I can plant my feet at any given moment while I'm in motion and fire a fast counter. Loads of examples of this, but I'm just going to show you some of my favorite ones from the fight. So, this position here, no surprise, Beterbiev's marching forward, so Bivol takes a little backward step, moves to the left, and you'll see what happens here. He drops his front foot back as if he's going to start circling round to the side, because that's what he does. He takes this foot and moves it to here. And the idea is that once that foot's in position there, he can try and bring himself over here and start moving around the ring again. So as he drops that foot there, he pauses, and rather than moving round, he uses that to plant his feet. So his feet are set here, and he goes with shots. So he goes jab up the middle, which lands clean. Right hand, which lands on the guard. Left hook lands on the guard. And then he resets. And you think from this position here, he's going to try and move over here. But again, he's moving. Boom. Sets his feet. And he goes left jab to the body. Left jab up top. Parried by Beterbiev. Dips under that jab. Doesn't throw back this time. And then he goes in motion again and blocks all those shots from Beterbiev. But the idea is simple. You move, you plant your feet very suddenly, and you throw. And then you look to get off your work. I absolutely love this one. And it's just a single shot. But this is the eye-catching stuff that, you know, makes you want to give Bivol rounds. And it's hard because, you know, it requires perpetual motion. So watch. You see the position here. He's moving around this way. Beterbiev pursuing him. Moves over there. Plants that foot. Shuffles across. Plants that foot. Boom. Bounces back the other way. Gets around Beterbiev's jab. And this is the thing. When Beterbiev tries to jab him when he's in motion like this, it's much easier to avoid punches. And this is something... It's a very random comparison that I'm going to give you here, but it's just because it's fresh in my mind. Something that I've noticed Daniel Dubois does when he gets his feet bouncing, suddenly his head movement gets a lot better and he starts slipping shots and throwing off the little bounces. So same thing with Bivol here. He bounces, Beterbiev extends the jab, and because he's bounced, he's lighter on his feet, he can throw his punches faster, and he fires a single shot there. Boom. Lands straight on the chin of Beterbiev there. You can see, boom, catches him clean. Right on the chin. And there's not too many times that you saw a clean shot like that in the fight. And then from that, he gets his guard up and he's able to move off again. Again here, Bivol is trying to move around this way. Beterbiev's trying to cut that exit. He's moving. Beterbiev lands a little hook on the gloves there. You see the way he moves. Beterbiev's rushing forward to try and close that gap. Bivol just bounces. Watch. And he locks there. Just as Beterbiev enters range, he bounces, he locks there. Boom, jab, right hand just over the top, left hook, hits the guard, jab, boom, right hand. And that's what I like to see because, as I've explained, Beterbiev does have a habit here. It's not a bad habit necessarily, he gets away with a lot, and it works as a pull counter, but it's something that you can manipulate a little bit. Jab up top to the chin, knocks his head back, and then shoots low with the right hand. You can see when he's rocked his head back like that, of course, there's going to be an opportunity to go into this opening here, and you can see he's got his foot nice and close, so that's available. Boom, fires the right hand down low, left hook up top, round the guard, and Beterbiev's forced to back up and reset. And that was the main way that Bivol really got off his combinations in this fight. You know, moving in perpetual motion, moving around the ring, using lateral movement side to side, and throwing those fast counters, those fast shots. And that was literally the story of the fight. You know, it was Beterbiev coming forward, trying to use his switching a little bit to cut those angles off, to try and, you know, stop Bivol from escaping, and Bivol trying to create confusion. When am I trying to escape? When am I actually trying to attack? And trying to time some of those Beterbiev jabs. And that really was the key for Bivol, timing the work off that Beterbiev jab, because he needs that jab to be able to close the gap and get into range. Couple quick things that Bivol was able to do with Beterbiev's movement that was really effective as well. The first thing that I'm sure some of you will have noticed was that Beterbiev, because he plants his feet, because he likes to throw a lot of powerful shots, he's quite flat-footed at times, and he uses the L step to change the angle. And the L step, for those of you that don't know, I'll show you right now. It's basically just this. What it allows you to do is move backwards without moving straight backwards, so you can't be caught coming out of a position. So the idea is to try and get off at an angle. So what you'll see here is this foot will go backwards, and then this foot will go to the side, thereby making an L shape. It's very simple. So this foot goes backwards, this foot goes to the side, and that's the L step. And all that does is it creates a new angle. There was quite a few times he did it in the fight, and Bivol didn't capitalize on it because it was quite a readable movement. It wasn't too quick. And as he lands, that's when you can really go for him because he's not planted to throw counter punches. So for me, Bivol could have probably gone for it even more with the L steps. He could have capitalized on them even more to try and create that feeling he couldn't do it, and then maybe force him to move backwards in straight lines a little bit more so that you can come forward with those clean straight punches. But you'll see, we'll just wind that back slightly. You'll see Bivol jabs there, and Beterbiev does the little L step, and Bivol reads it here. You see he switches his angle straight away, and then he fires a jab up the middle, a right hand, And it's on the guard there, another little jab. It's all on the guard there, but the point is he can anticipate that movement. He can keep Beterbiev on the back foot where he needs to be to beat him. You can see it again here, and this time their feet are very close together, so Beterbiev's got to be, quite careful in doing it, because changing the angle that close, you're obviously more hittable when you're close to somebody, so moving off at an angle like that can be quite tricky, quite risky. You'll see here, the second he does it, quick L step. He does it in one motion that time. It's much faster, but as he does it, tries to change the angle. Bivol's very alert to it and throws the jab right up the middle. Hits the guard there. Right hand round the guard, and again, makes Beterbiev back up. And that's what you want, as I said. As I say, a couple of examples of it there. Something I felt he could have probably capitalized on even more, because there was quite a few times that Beterbiev got away with it in the fight, and it would have been an opportunity to potentially get him on the back foot. Final thing I'll show you is why we didn't see Beterbiev switching too much in this fight. There were moments when Bivol was really able to capitalize on those foot faults. But switching is not necessarily a foot fault, but if you catch someone in the midst of switching, as I showed you before, it can be a problem. This is something that, Bivol's really good at. I showed you in my Canelo Berlanga breakdown, the way that Bivol capitalized on those Canelo foot faults. I showed you again in the preview for this fight. Really, really good at timing people when they're switching, because it's something that both Canelo and Beterbiev do. They cross their feet to get into range. They walk into range at times, and they don't mind ending up in southpaw for a moment. Beterbiev also uses it to cut angles off, something you've seen a lot of the great fighters doing. But anyway, he dips under, he catches him with a good jab there, actually, as he's dipping down. And you'll see the idea for Beterbiev here is he wants to make this foot the lead foot, because that foot is closer to the way that, because Bivol's trying to exit this way, that foot is closer to the exit route. So you're better to put your weight onto that foot and follow off, leading with that foot. So there you go. He goes onto the right foot there. So suddenly, in that position, he's in southpaw. And this is something that I think Bivol could do even more in the rematch. I think to try and capitalize on Beterbiev when he uses that to follow him. Know that he's going to follow you. Know there's going to be a moment when his legs are not in a punching position. And try and capitalize on that. So watch. As he edges forward here. Steps through into orthodox. And dips down and throws a shot. And you can see there, he's ended up stepping into southpaw again. And because of where Bivol's face is, he spotted this. I'm pretty sure he spotted this anyway. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit. But he spotted the stance switch. So as he comes through here, look at his feet. This foot here is in midair. Let me try doing that circle again. This foot here is in midair. So there's absolutely no way that Bivol can land a punch there. So Beterbiev can land a punch there. So Bivol, knowing this, he goes. He throws. Jab, right hand, jab. And he's got his guard up there. And it's good work from Beterbiev to defend that. And he goes with another little hook. Hook. That one goes around the guard. Good blocking from Beterbiev there. And it's a big exchange. And again, bang, bang. And that's the end of that one. But the point is, that whole sequence is triggered by a foot fault from Beterbiev. And so I think Bivol can probably have even more success with those foot faults moving forward. So have a little look at this exchange here as well, just to show you again, Bivol capitalizing on that foot fault from Beterbiev. So, guys, you know what? I actually kind of want to stop saying foot fault. I'll just say switching, because it's not a fault. He does it very deliberately. It's a massive strength that he uses that can be turned into a weakness. That's the point. Can you turn it into a weakness? Anyway, you'll see here, Bivol just catches him very lightly with a loose little jab there, and Beterbiev instantly counters down to the body, comes up with that left hook upstairs, which lands around the side of the guard. And you'll see there's just a moment here, because what Bivol's trying to do here, and this is one of the reasons that he was able to get to him, Beterbiev, he's trying to exit that way. So again, which foot is closer to that exit is the right foot. The foot on this side is closer, which is his right foot. So as he tries to exit that way, as that hook is landed, you see there's just a moment there where Beterbiev has landed in southpaw. You can see that's the front foot there. He's landed in southpaw, but he hasn't been able to throw a shot. So as Bivol moves away, he's got to step back into orthodox. So you can see right foot forward here, left foot back. He's going to step that left foot forward. As he does that, that's an opportunity to attack because he's switching his stance. So he steps that through. As he steps, you see, look, the second he starts stepping, Bivol goes with the jab. So boom, boom, up the guard, up the middle there, and he lands in orthodox. And then he's landed a nice jab up the middle, and Beterbiev has to take a step back. Something that I felt Bivol needed to do more in this fight was lead off. He countered a lot. I've shown you how effective his counters were. They were brilliant, but I do think he needed to add leading off into his offensive arsenal, let's say, a little bit more. Because I just think it would have Some of these rounds were very, very close. And the only thing that, probably swayed it for the judges was the come forward aggression of Beterbiev. If Bivol could have just had a few more moments where he was the aggressor, I think it could have won in the fight. And I'm not saying he needs to make massive changes. These are very subtle, very smart things he needs to do. And the timing has got to be impeccable. The amount he does, it's got to be very, very calculated. He can't overdo it, because if he over-engages with Beterbiev, we both know who the stronger man is. So this one here, it's one of the few times that you see Bivol actually leading off, not a counter shot, but actually he takes the initiative and throws first. So here, he just touches him there. And, typically he likes to do that to gauge the range. Uses that stiff arm to gauge it. And he knows he's in range there. Beterbiev's not throwing a counter, so he can go. So he touches his backhand there, so he can't throw the backhand, occupies that backhand. And he just fires a quick jab in there. Really nice shot, hits it clean. And then he goes with another little jab just to reset the range. And it's so simple, small moment there, but just little moments like that where he says, I'm going to be the aggressor for a moment here. I'm going to force you to move backwards. Once again, he comes onto the front foot. He touches him with a jab, hits the guard. Goes with the right hand, hits the gloves. And Beterbiev's just backing off. And the same sequence, Beterbiev goes to step in again. And then again, he fires the jab low. Really nice punch variation, hits him on the gloves again. And from there, they reset. But the round 9 was a really big round for Bivol. And it was because of the punch variation, the aggression. He came forward more in that round. Same thing in round 9, and a mixture of a couple of things here. Bivol on the move, suddenly plants his feet. Boom, plants, jab, right hand, hits the guard. And Beterbiev backs off. But this time, so, here normally Bivol would look to exit probably this way. Potentially he'd try and get around this way. But instead this time he goes, no, do you know what? I'm going to follow you in. And, Beterbiev's got his hands down there, so it's a good idea. Takes a little step. And he just throws a jab up the middle. Beterbiev makes a miss, but then he goes with a body shot there. And this is something I really feel like Bivol needs to do more. Occupy him up here. We saw it with Gvozdyk. If you occupy him up here, then this opens up. But also, if you'd thrown a hook there around the guard, then the right hand. So if the hook had gone around the side there, then again, the right hand opens up there through the middle. And we saw that time and time again with Gvozdyk. So, lands a little left hook there. It doesn't quite land that left hook, and then Beterbiev steps in and the pattern of the fight resumes. But that's the point. I really think that he needed to just do it a few more times. He needed to commit just a few more times. Another thing I want to show you here, and this is getting probably a bit too much into Beterbiev's analysis, because I really want to show you this in the Beterbiev video properly, but I'll just quickly show you an example of something Bivol did well here, and this is something he needs to do more. So Beterbiev, a way that he likes to attack, and it's something he does a lot, is he'll take a little skip into range. So he throws the jab here, and you see he does a little pendulum step. So this foot goes to here, so this foot can go to here, and it helps him get into range. And obviously at the same time, the idea is to use this hand, flick that forward to occupy the vision so that they can't really read that you're getting into range. So you'll see, extends the jab, does the little step, and then what he'll often do here is pause there. What he likes to do, Beterbiev, is he'll dip his legs here, and he'll flourish a hand. So here he's gone with his lead hand. Often he'll flourish his right hand, and from that position there, where he's dipped, it's really hard to read what he'll do, and he'll throw it with power. So it's hard to defend. It's probably going to hurt you whether it hits your guard or not. And what happened a lot in this fight was he dipped, but it would be from a better space. So the difference on this one is, and I should really have shown you a successful one to help you understand, but what's happened here is he's taken this step, and what Bivol's done here that he struggled to do at times in this fight was he's just taken a little half step back to there. It's something you see all the good counter punchers doing, these little half steps backwards to make their man fall short or end up too close to you to do what they want to do. So this little half step here, what it enables is, the little half step back there, what it enables is as he dips down there, Beterbiev, he's not kept moving backwards there, Bivol, he's planted. And the way he was going at times, Bivol, where he was coming back too much, Beterbiev would have expected him probably in this instance to keep going backwards to about there. So he thinks when he dips here that Bivol's going to be further away, but he's not. And as a result, he's suddenly in range during the dip. Normally the dip is further away. So he dips, and then Bivol's only thinking one thing, right hand. Boom, that's a good shot. And it lands between the neck area, so Beterbiev's so strong. But then you can see he catches him with the left hand there as well. Boom, that's a good left hand. And then Beterbiev resets. But something he needs to do better is he needs to time those dips. So whether that's taking that little half step back and then being brave, holding your feet, anticipating the dip, and then throwing your shots, or whether it's actually stepping in and firing shots into that dip. There's a moment there where he is exposed, where his guard is more open, when he's going to sling that shot in. that's an area where I really feel like he can capitalize on it more. And I'll show you how he does it better, Beterbiev, in the Beterbiev video. I don't really want to get into it here, but Bivol's got to time the Beterbiev attacks more. He's got to vary more when he's going to actually move backwards and when he's going to hold his feet. And he does have to hold his feet, and he does have to throw with power with greater frequency, in my opinion, if he's going to get a win in a rematch. Another technique Bivol used here, didn't use it too often in the fight. I think there was a few occasions. Again, I'm referencing Daniel Dubois a lot today, but well, it's twice, but probably 2 times too many because he's not in the caliber of these guys. But still, it's a technique he uses, and he used well against AJ. Didn't use it so well against Hrgovic. He got it wrong, but made the adjustment. See, Beterbiev throws his jab here, and what Bivol does, you'll see here, is he throws his own jab back there, and you can see his arms extended, and his jab hand is just holding Beterbiev's shoulder. And what that allows is a protection from Beterbiev's right hand. He can't really do anything with that, but also what it allows is an exit, because he holds the jab there and he just pushes off and he dips under that right hand of Beterbiev, and Beterbiev's off balance. And then from there, Bivol has the option, if he wants to, he can push forward there. It's an opportunity to push forward if he wanted to. And the wedge, I think it's called, someone told me recently, I didn't know, I just called it a jab defense before, but someone told me it's called the wedge, when you shove your jab hand in there, hold it, dip under their right hand or whatever it is they do, and then you move off. It's an opportunity for Bivol to stay in the pocket a bit more, not have to worry so much about backpedaling. And all of these comments really are geared towards how can he backpedal a bit less with that high guard, because really that was what saw him really take too much punishment. That was what saw him slow down and really make it look like he was losing rounds much heavier than he needed to. The final thing is, I won't show you this. I've got some highlights, but you can go through the fight and watch it. It was just the body shots he landed. He landed some good body shots, but I felt that he needed to sit down them more. And I'm just speculating here, but I've got a feeling that Beterbiev's body is freakishly strong, so maybe it's not the right strategy, but you do need to find a way to slow him down a bit more, and maybe a few more body shots would do the job. So maybe Bivol needs to target that body a bit more, sit down on those body shots a little bit more, and really try and hurt him to the body, try and fatigue him, try and tire him. There's a risk that Beterbiev could be even stronger in the rematch if the knee injury actually affected his preparations for the fight in terms of how he was able to do his conditioning. There's also a reality where Beterbiev, and more likely I would say, where he's actually more faded for the rematch because he just can't train the same way anymore. And he's more deteriorated physically as he gets older. A couple more notes I made that we'll just go through quickly that I think Bivol could have done better. I think that he just needed to take his chances a bit more. There were opportunities, L steps, little moments like that I've just shown you with the wedge there. Moments where I feel like he could have held his feet a bit more and just been a bit more aggressive. And he only needed to do it maybe 2 times more per round to try and get the win in some of those rounds that were swing rounds. I also felt that he possibly could have varied the speed of his combinations a bit more. Something that Amir Khan was regularly accused of was being very one speed. And guys would often say, once you get used to the speed, as freakish as it is, once you adapt to it, you can get your timing down, you can start to time his shots. I felt like that happened a little bit with Bivol here, where early on, Beterbiev was a little bit shocked by the speed, but very quickly he adapted to the speed and, he wasn't afraid of it. So I think that when Bivol explodes into those combinations, I think he could just pause for a moment, let Beterbiev try and throw a counter, anticipate that, then go again with another single shot. And I think that throwing those bigger single punches from time to time is a good idea for him. I thought that he didn't feint that much, which I found interesting. And Beterbiev, to be fair to him, he's willing to take a shot to give a shot. So maybe actually feinting wouldn't help him too much, but I would be interested to know how feinting would assist him in this fight, potentially to try and draw some more counters out of Beterbiev to then counter his counters. Neither man really feinted too much in this fight, but I definitely thought and wondered during the fight, could a few more feints have helped? At the very least, foot feints. I mean, he did move a lot, he did flow a lot, and Beterbiev was never really too deterred. When he did pause, he would just, cover up and take those combinations to allow him to keep the pressure on. As I said before, I thought he was too reliant on that high guard, too reliant on his backwards movement. I thought he was just too dependent on that as part of his defense to get through the fight. I think he needs to potentially pivot a bit more, move around the man a bit more, use angles a bit more when moving off. I know it was later in the fight when he was doing that, but really that was what lost him in the fight. In the end, for me, those last 2 rounds, he didn't win any of them. Again, using more half steps to create those little moments, those little spaces where Beterbiev is second-guessing, throwing those big shots from range. When he's closing that gap, try and create more indecision in Beterbiev. Is it okay to swing in here and throw these big punches? Can you try and create an opportunity to counter them by creating that little extra space, or even indeed stepping in? And finally, if possible, can he be any fitter? I just asked that question. Can you be a little bit fitter? Because he's going to have to move a lot to win this fight. That's unquestionable, and I don't even know if it's doable. But if he could be any fitter, and it's a world of speculation we're in here, so I'm allowed to say this. If he could be fitter, it would certainly not hurt his cause. But anyway, guys, I'm nitpicking here. It was an amazing performance from Bivol. He very well could have got the decision. I definitely had Beterbiev winning the fight, but I also felt that it was close. It was very, very close. And I've watched it again, and watching this back, I was probably even more in admiration of the work that Beterbiev did than I was during the fight. And, I'm looking forward to part 2 of this, putting part 2 of this out for you, showing you the work Beterbiev did and how he was able to get the decision in this fight. But I thought he was absolutely brilliant. I thought Bivol was absolutely brilliant too, though he certainly played his part. But I definitely think there's things he'll look at and he'll feel he can improve upon. I just think it might just be, now that he's been in there with Beterbiev and he's realized he can get through 12 rounds, it might just allow him to take those little extra chances, those little extra risks to score some of those rounds in his favor. But anyway, guys, this has been How Was Bivol So Damn Good Against Beterbiev? I hope you've enjoyed it. I'd love you to get your comments in the comment section below. As I say, if you're new, please subscribe to the channel. Please bang a like on the video. It really does help me to grow. And also, if you're interested, get in my Discord server. I'm really looking forward to the next couple of months. I've looked through the boxing calendar. I think in terms of the big events we're going to be covering that are coming up, obviously Fury Usyk 2 is the big one that we're going to be watching. I'm really excited for that. I will be back in the UK for that one. Hope this new setup's been okay today. We'll be sitting down, by the way. But the other one that I'll look to do is Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. I have to apologize to the hardcores in my audience, but I feel that it's going to be such a big event. It would be stupid of me not to cover it because I know that it will potentially do some good numbers. It will potentially get more fans to the channel, more people, that can join my movement of, having good discussions about boxing. That's what I really want here. I want us to be able to be critical thinkers, look at different people's ideas and, try and analyze boxing and really think about it. And I just enjoy it. I really enjoy having that open free space where it's not fanboyish. It's not, sort of ridiculous diehard attitudes. It's trying to be objective and fair. And if we can bring more people around to that, then brilliant. And also I feel a responsibility to cover it because there'll be people trying to tell you it is what it isn't. People trying to spin a story, especially people that are fans of Jake Paul. There's a lot of people out there that want Mike Tyson to be old Mike Tyson. A lot of us are afraid of aging. I really believe that. And I think that a lot of people are scared to see what Mike's going to be. I'm scared to see what Mike's going to be. I really don't want Mike Tyson to get hurt, but at the same time, I respect that he's an individual and he's decided this is something that he wants to do. So it makes me feel a bit sick that, he essentially is a cherry pick for Jake Paul to try and boost his boxing record even more. If you're going to make the claims you are making about being a good boxer, about wanting to fight in the Olympics and the amateur system and all this stuff, I know it's, pure hyperbole. I know it's him just making up rubbish to try and, sell more tickets to make more money. But I think it's really important that somebody is able to sit there and be objective about what that fight is. I'm very worried about what will happen to Mike Tyson in that ring, but as I say, he's a grown man. He can make his own decisions. So I'll probably cover that event as much as I don't want it to happen. Anyway, guys, hope you've enjoyed the video. And as I always say, on to the next one.